What's going on, everybody? Long time no talk. If you're new to the channel, my name's Pat. I worked in Philadelphia sports radio for 13 years until last May. I came in and they decided, you know what, we don't need you anymore because we're laying a bunch of people off. And I was one of the casualties. And honestly, at that point in my life, I was fine with it. I hated the direction of where my radio station was going. They had absolutely no leadership at all, and I was fine. I knew that come January, I'd probably be out of a job anyway. That was kind of where it was trending. So I decided to just take some time off. But now I'm kind of getting itchy again to talk about sports and Philadelphia sports. And the good thing about nobody wanting me, which is kind of what happened, is I don't have to listen to a 68-year-old guy tell me to talk Eagles, Eagles, Eagles when there's nothing to talk about. I can talk about what I want to talk about. And that was one of the troubles I was having in the industry was I was finding it more and more impossible to talk about things that I just flat out did not give a rat's ass about. So an example of that would be right now, and this one probably won't age well, but like torpedo bats. I'm sure that radio stations left and right are talking about torpedo bats. I don't care about torpedo bats. This will be primarily a thing where I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. I will hopefully do these 3-ish days a week, and we'll keep it fresh. And hopefully you guys like it out there. And if you don't, I'm sure I'm going to be getting a lot of condescending LOLs in the comment section. But that's who I am. And let's get into the first topic. Now, as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, I am wearing a Phillies hat. I am a Phillies fan. I love the Philadelphia Phillies. I have season tickets. I follow the system pretty regularly with the minor leagues. I am one of those nerds that watches the draft. I live and die this team. But what happened in Game 3 of the season, I need to address it, and I need to announce my retirement from watching Aaron Nola pitch. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I can't watch a 7-year, $172 million guy pitch like he is a 4. And the fan base falling over themselves to convince themselves that this guy is more than that this guy is an ace. Because 7 years ago, he was second in Cy Young voting. Like, come on, he's not. Aaron Nola, at this point in his career, showed you what he was the first game of the season against the Nationals when he got rocked. When he went out there and had the quintessential Aaron Nola start, which is, I'm looking like the greatest pitcher to ever play the game for the first 3 innings. And then all of a sudden, I'll have 2 outs in the 4th. And you're sitting there comfortable as a Phillies fan, and I'm going to be Lucy pulling the football out going, no. Back to my old tricks. Because with 2 outs in the 4th, I think he hit a guy, gave up a single, and then it was a 3-run home run. Got through the 5th inning okay. I think he had like an out in the 6th inning, and then it was single home run. He's out of the game. He can't get through 6 innings. He's given up 5 earned runs. He struck out 8, and it's the most confusing outing, yet not confusing at all because that's exactly what Aaron Nola does at this point in his career. Like what we saw in Washington to a bad national team is what we would have seen Aaron Nola do pretty much to anybody in the league. He might have done it to a couple of high school teams. Like, that's what he lives to give up the home run ball, and it kills him. And I'm okay with you giving up a home run ball if it's a single. If you're getting out there and you give up a solo shot, fine. Okay, that happens. It's 1 run. His propensity to give up home runs when it's 2 and 3-run home runs, that's where he kills you. And just looking at the numbers, and this is one of the reasons why I hated his contract, Aaron Nola is an every other year pitcher. Every other year, he's pretty good. Well, 2025 is supposed to be the year that he's not good. And when you look at his numbers, talk about that 2018 season that I mentioned when he was, I said second earlier, he was third. So he comes out, 2.37 ERA. His numbers were actually better than Roy Halladay when he won the Cy Young. I thought Aaron Nola should have been, higher up than, I thought he should have won it. Period, point blank. But the next year, he rebounds from a 2.37 rebounds to a 3.87. Next year, it was 3.28, so he improves. The year after that, 4.63. Year after that, 3.25. Year after that, 4.46. Last year, 3.57. Like, this is what he does. It's up, down. And this is supposed to be a down year for Aaron Nola. And when you give a guy 7 years and $172 million, whatever it was, and your big thing is like, well, we couldn't lose him. To me, that's your buddy who probably can do better, but is telling himself, I'm not going to break up with this girl because I can't do better. Yeah, she's not that great, but I'm going to tell myself she's got sexy elbows. And I'm going to be all up in them elbows. Like, does Aaron Nola have the ability to go out there and be an ace? Absolutely, because we've seen it before. But that's my issue with Aaron Nola, and more so this fan base, is because of the fact that we have seen him do it, we're convinced that he is that. And he's not what he's shown us the past 7 years. Like, think about that. It's been 7 years since Aaron Nola had that finishing third in the Cy Young. 7 years. And you're still out here going, Wheeler, Nola. No, it's Wheeler. It's Wheeler, it's Sanchez. When Suarez is on, Luzardo, like, he looked great. Aaron Nola is not a top 3 pitcher at this point. And I'm sure that there are going to be people in the comments section, because I got this on Twitter when I posted it. And you can follow me on all social platforms, just Pat_Egan. It wasn't really creative of a name, but it was easy to say. And I tweeted out, like, I'm done with Aaron Nola, and I'm retiring from watching him pitch. And it was like, well, he's not what you could do when the offense scores 0 runs. Hey, auto observer, like, that is a great observation by you. You're right. The offense could have given up 10 runs, and I would have said the same thing. Because this isn't about Aaron Nola not getting run support, which he has not gotten in his career. Cole Hamels dealt with the same thing. Nothing to do with that. This is Aaron Nola can't get through 6. Aaron Nola gives up 5. Aaron Nola is not a good watch. He's not fun to watch. And it's because of the fact that he has this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. And yet when I tweet out, like, hey, I'm done, you have Phillies fans falling over themselves to defend him by saying, well, he got no run support. He couldn't get through 6 innings. He gave up 5 earned runs to one of the worst teams in baseball. What were you watching? Because what I saw Aaron Nola do was exactly what I expected, which is he ended up getting bit in the ass by the gopher ball, hanging curveballs. Like, that's what he is. And I'm not here for it. I don't enjoy it. One of my best friends, me and him, were discussing the Aaron Nola situation, and this was last year. It was during the Mets series, because I was saying how, Wheeler's really the only guy that I feel uber confident throwing out there. And we brought up Suarez. Now he was kind of leaking oil a little bit. Then we got Nola. And he said to me, the thing with Nola is I'm never, ever going to feel comfortable with Aaron Nola on the mound. Ever. I'm never going to be able to sit back and go, he's got his good stuff today. Because even when he has his good stuff, he seems to be able to find his bad stuff. And that's the confusing conundrum of Aaron Nola. And that's why I'm done. You can never, as a Phillies fan, look me in the eye and say, I feel good about an Aaron Nola start. I don't care what the matchup is. I don't care what he's pitched like that season. You're probably going to be sitting there going, where's the Rav 4th inning happening? The fact that the Rav 4th inning has become an inside joke with Phillies fans is troubling. But I don't enjoy it. Maybe this is a bad opening salvo for this new thing I got going to say I'm not going to watch Phillies baseball, but I'm going to treat every Aaron Nola start as an off day where I can catch up on Netflix or something, because I'm not going to sit there and waste 3 hours of my life getting pissed off at a guy that I didn't really want here to begin with. I thought they should have moved on from him, let him be somebody else's problem. You could have gone, made a trade. You could have gotten a Garrett Crochet. You traded for Luzardo. Like, he looked, once again, it's one start. He wasn't good last year, but he looked great in his one start. Like, there's pitchers to be had out there. But for Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies to go like, well, if he was out there, he would have been the number 1 pitch. Okay. And you know what that reeks of? That reeks of Chuck Fletcher telling Flyers fans, well, other teams are willing to give the Flyers or other teams were willing to give the Sabres a first-round pick for Rasmus Ristolainen, so we had to. No, you didn't. No. No, you did not. And now you're saddled with 6 more years of a guy who is a glorified 4. And let me just, and you're going to hear this a lot because I am a Phillies fan. I hope I'm wrong. I hope people come back to this video in 4 or 5 months and go, that aged poorly. I really do. I don't care. It's one of the things that annoyed me about sports media is you had people out there pretending to be fans of teams when in reality they wanted the teams to suck because it made their life easier because they got phone calls. I was never one of those guys. Life is easier for me when my teams do well. The teams don't seem to do well when Aaron Nola pitches. My mental health seems to struggle when Aaron Nola pitches. So I'm officially hanging it up. I'm done. When playoffs come around, it'll be different because I can't miss a playoff game. But can I miss a random May Tuesday where Aaron Nola's facing the Padres? Sure, why not? Yeah, I can skip that. I can find something to do with my kids or something. I don't know. But what I won't be doing is sitting there getting pissed off because I know that the Rav 4th inning is coming. And even though he's got 7 strikeouts through 3, he's probably going to end up giving up a couple of home run balls. So I am announcing my retirement from watching Aaron Nola pitch. If you're still out there, if you're fighting the good fight, I commend you for it. It's not easy. I get it. If you still have faith, I applaud you for that as well. I'm not going to, kill your vibe with the Aaron Nola hope that you might have, but I'm out of hope with him. I'm done. To me, it's not even a question. So the Tush Push talks have been tabled by the NFL for later on as they can, quote, better evaluate the argument. That's what I'm assuming. They're going to better evaluate their argument and why they're going to try to sway teams to the other side. Now, I think you need 24 votes in order to pass, which, that's a lot of votes. But my issue with the whole Tush Push narrative is you've got some truly baby shit soft teams out there. And there's one guy that I'm looking at. One guy that people don't want to rip around Philly because he's local. Sean McDermott can go kick rocks, pound sand, and swim in a lake for as far as I'm concerned. Sean McDermott's a rat. And there's a reason why Sean McDermott can't get over the hump. There's a reason why Sean McDermott gets to the AFC Championship game every year and seems to come up short. Because he's a loser. Because he's got loser mentality when it comes to this argument. Let me just say right now, if you are an NFL fan and you think for 1 second that Sean McDermott, that Matt LaFleur, that really any coach gives a rat's ass about player safety, you're kidding yourself. But this is a narrative that's been thrown out there that it's unsafe for the players because what? Because 1 or 2 guys might get injured, right? I'm sorry, are we watching football or are we watching like Quidditch? They might get in. Like, where's the line then? Are we going to stop stiff arms because they look bad? You kind of tried to stop the lowering your shoulder thing. That didn't really work. You might as well just stop goal line sneaks. For Sean McDermott to come out and say it is really puzzling to me because he's got a horse of a quarterback who should be good at the Tush Push. He should be great at it. And yet baby shit soft Sean McDermott comes out and is clarifying player safety. Sean, you stop. Nothing to do with player safety, bud. Nothing to do with it. Matt LaFleur, we all saw what happened when your team tried to run the push. It was an unmitigated disaster. It is a meme that will live in infamy, and it makes you look really bad that the Packers are the ones that brought this up. Let's call it what it is. This is a play that the Eagles do better than everybody else, and you've got some mentally soft, weak teams that go, we can't stop it, so it's not fair. It's not fair that we can't do it. We tried a few times, but we can't stop it. Like, kudos to the former NFL players out there that are championing to keep this and saying how soft it is, that you've got organizations trying to get rid of it, that it's not a quote, it's not a football. I love that. It's not a football play. What the? At one point, the forward pass wasn't a football play. What are we talking about? They got rid of the wedge back in like 1920 because it literally killed someone. When you watch the push, is that killing anybody? Has anyone died from the Tush Push, or are we just getting 2 to 3 yards? I must have missed it. I watch a lot of Eagles games. I didn't see anyone die from it. Yet I've seen some really vicious hits that look real bad. But yet, no. It's all about player safety. When you really think about it, the push might be one of the safer plays in football because it's just so bang bang. It's like there's no real room to get a running start. Guys are running into each other, but they're an inch apart. This isn't a wide receiver going over the middle having to worry about Ray Lewis. This isn't Saquon Barkley coming downhill. This is our quarterback is literally being pushed, and you guys aren't strong enough to stop it. To me, that would seem like one of the safer plays. I don't know. I mean, I'm a 5'3", $150, so I don't play the sport. I know Jason Kelce wasn't a huge fan of it, but then again, he's the center. So it might be a little taxing on him. But for the opposing teams, and we saw this in the playoffs, like they know what's coming and they know they can't stop it. But for that rat, Sean McDermott, who seems to get a free pass in this city because of the fact he's local, and I hate that. I hate the fact that Philadelphia seems to be the smallest big city where it's like, oh, hey, he's from there, so we have to like him. No, Sean McDermott can go F off. He can royally go F himself, claiming player safety. Sean McDermott doesn't care about player safety. Nobody in the NFL cares about player safety other than the players. This is the most violent sport, and all of a sudden we're caring about player safety. Okay. I don't think the push will get banned this time around. I think the Eagles' best hope for this is simply other teams get a little bit better at it, so it's not just the Eagles having this high success rate. Right now, the Eagles do it better than anybody, and you thought maybe they'd struggle with it this season, and their numbers went down a smidge. But when Jason Kelce retired, you thought, okay, how does Cam Jurgens going to do with it? And they were fine. Teams have stopped it. It's not like it's 100%, but it just cracks me up that you've got these mentally soft, fragile teams out there, like the Buffalo Bills and like the Green Bay Packers, who are going like, oh, we can't stop it. We need to formulate a better argument. There's no research. You know what this is? This is this thing of like, we had this in the radio industry. You just go, oh, check the tape. That was a go-to when you wanted to win an argument. Oh, check the tape, knowing full well that if somebody checked the tape, there would be nothing there. But you were banking on them not checking the tape. You're banking on them not stopping what they were doing and going to actually go through our archive player, find that specific date, find that argument, and they were just going to take your word for it. And that's exactly what this is with the whole argument that this is dangerous for the players. There's really no backup in terms of facts that say that this is any more dangerous than any other play in football. Yet, you've got teams out there who will continue to, pound the table and say, no, it's not safe, it's not, with no data. And I understand that that's just like where we are as a society nowadays, like facts don't matter. And I would be annoyed by it if I wasn't an Eagles fan. If I was a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, if I was a Rams fan, if I was a Seahawks fan, and I had to watch my team play the Birds and they line up for the push, I'd be annoyed, but I wouldn't be sitting there as a coward going, oh my God, we have to stop this because no one else can stop it, so we need to outlaw it. It's funny. My generation gets called soft. I'm a millennial. We get called soft all the time. And it's all about the participation trophies. This is the most participation boomer narrative that is dangerous. This is a participation trophy. We can't stop it. We need to make it more fair. And I truly wonder this, social media wasn't around when the forward pass got brought up, but I wonder if there was an outcry of this isn't fair. Gee willikers, they're tossing the ball now. We're supposed to run it. Because when the forward pass got introduced, there was probably one team that was way better at it than everybody else. And they mastered it. And you know what happened? Everybody else caught up. I understand it's a play you can't really practice as a defense. That's kind of the point. Here's an idea. If you don't like the tush push, stop it, one, or don't let the Eagles, or any other team for that matter, get that close. And then it won't be an issue. But as far as I'm concerned, Sean McDermott is the loser of the week. And there's a reason why his team just can't seem to get over the hump because this is what he's focused on. Banning plays instead of getting his team better when he's got a behemoth of a quarterback. That, by the way, should not. All right, here's a radio story for you guys. So during the pandemic, there's no sports going on. Doing sports radio with no sports, a little bit taxing. Wasn't the easiest, especially after like week 2, when you're kind of done talking about when will sports come back and society wasn't great and all that. So the first sport to come back was the UFC, MMA. That was the first sport. Dana White gets Fight Island, which was just like an island in, I don't know, the Arab Emirates. And he put on cards. And I thought, okay, finally I can talk about MMA. It's a sport that I like. It's a sport that I follow pretty religiously. But it's a sport I don't get to talk about because of the fact that, quote, it doesn't rate well. And that's, I think, what gets lost a lot of times with listeners is like they wonder why stations talk about the Eagles so much. And it's like, well, you literally see a jump when they talk about the Eagles no matter what day of the week it is, what time of the year it is. Like, we would constantly get like, why don't you guys talk about the Flyers? You see a dip when people talk about the Flyers. Like, I love hockey. I had a game last night. I got a game tomorrow. I watch sport all the time. It's a chicken and egg thing. Flyers fans would call up and say, like, you guys don't talk about hockey. And then when we would talk about hockey, they want to call up, and we'd be like, why didn't you call up? Well, because you guys never talk about hockey. It's like they weren't listening anyway. And MMA was such a niche sport that we weren't going to talk about it. But in this particular instance, I thought, okay, I have a 3-hour show. There's no sports going on. There's one sport. I will dedicate an hour to breaking down this UFC card, and I can hopefully help you guys like win some bets or something. And if not, just know, we lost money together. So I do that. I do it for like 2 or 3 weeks. And my producer at the time, a guy named Josh Rabick, who was also a big MMA fan, that was the most fun I had for my show. It was like, I didn't really care about taking calls. I was just able to talk about the topic that I liked. Thought I was fairly knowledgeable. I was one of the more knowledgeable people in Philadelphia sports radio circles, at least. I'm not saying I was the only one that followed it, but in the station that I worked at, there might have been one like casual watcher. But for the most part, like I was the only one. And I loved it. And I got called in my boss's office, who I had a great relationship with, Chuck. And he's like, can't talk about MMA. And it was one of the few times I really disagreed with him. And I was like, why? Dude, it's the only sport going on right now. And he kind of gave me the like, you know why? I'm like, Chuck, dude, you're asking me to get water out of a stone here. Like, I'm giving a lifeline by the UFC. I actually know the topic, and I can't talk about it. You know what? I can talk about it. I can talk about it here. I can finally talk about MMA. And look, I'm wrong as much as I'm right with the sport, but I found it interesting because yesterday, the UFC announced the card for UFC 316, and it will be headlined by the rematch of Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley. And this one, for all you Philly people, is going to be a local card, kind of. It's in Newark, New Jersey, at the Prudential Center. But the card is really good. And I don't think this is the International Fight Week card, because that's usually, I believe, in July. But I'll tell you, I'm not excited at all for this main event. At all. I was one of the people that thought Merab would lose to Umar. And I got roped into the narrative by MMA media that Merab would lose to Umar, because most of the MMA media was so Umar Nurmagomedov upped. I mean, they were just drinking the Kool-Aid, that there wasn't a world where Merab could win. And I really like Merab. I've liked Merab since he came to the UFC, since he was on Dana White looking for a fight. Like, the dude is, to me, he's entertaining. I understand why people don't think he's entertaining. To me, he's entertaining. And when he beat Umar, it was like, okay, well, who's next? Yeah, I guess it's Sean. But the idea that the fight is going to go any different than the first time, I think, is foolish. Merab is nicknamed the Machine for a reason, and I think you saw that in not only the first O'Malley fight, but the Umar fight, when he wore down Umar Nurmagomedov. And I think Umar would beat Sean O'Malley. And that's not to take away from Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley is a really, really good fighter. Hasn't really gotten to show off his ground game at all because of his striking ability. It's just really good. But we keep hearing that he's got a really good ground game. I would have liked to see Sean O'Malley fight Umar. I think what you're going to have to see in this one for O'Malley is like he's going to have to catch Merab coming in perfectly, kind of like he did Aljo. And even then, I don't know if I don't know if that's going to be enough. You know, I mean, we've seen Merab get caught, mainly in the Marlon Moraes fight. Like, he was seemingly out on his feet, and yet, you know, he ended up winning that fight because he did his thing. He, you know, wrestled, he got a hold of him, he was able to recover and clinch, and then when he finally recovered, he was fine. But Merab's ground game is so much better, his wrestling at least, is so much better than O'Malley, that he will just hold you down, wear you down, and let you know about it. And that's why I think he's way more entertaining than, like, a Khabib. Khabib would maul you. There was nothing entertaining about it, though. Like, Merab's sitting there having full-on conversations with people during the fight. I love that dude. But I don't think this is going to be a very entertaining fight. I think this is going to be 25 minutes of Sean O'Malley getting ragdolled again, of Sean O'Malley getting held down. Afterwards, Sean O'Malley owning it, but then saying, like, hey, why couldn't we stand and trade? Well, that's not really the game. You know, I think a lot of times MMA fans forget that these guys get paid to win. It's like, let's say, 100 to show, 100 to win. Well, if you lose, there goes half your paycheck. You got 100 to show. You didn't get the other 100 to win. So I'm not overly looking forward to this fight, but name recognition-wise, it's a pretty good one. And I think it's the fight that a lot of fans want to see. It did crack me up during the Merab thing of, like, I know a lot of people were like, oh, he's scared of Umar. No, he's not. Merab, and he proved that. But Merab was never scared of Umar. Merab wanted the rematch of O'Malley because it was the easier fight and because he knew that that would get more eyeballs. Sean O'Malley is going to sell way more pay-per-views than Umar Nurmagomedov. And for Sean O'Malley, it's an easier fight for Merab, who now has the pay-per-view points as the champion. And I think that's why he was saying, like, I don't know if Umar has done enough. Like, he did. Umar did, but I don't think there was a doubt in my mind that Merab would have rather faced, in his opinion, the easier fight in Sean O'Malley than face the harder fight where he probably was going to get paid less because of the pay-per-view numbers. But O'Malley's got that, you know, McGregor lore a little bit where he's got the Buffalo Wild Wing bros who will come out in full force. Like, I thought O'Malley lost to Peter Yan, and immediately I got a bunch of people pointing out, like, the numbers in the fight, like the striking numbers. I watched the fight. I thought he lost. This one, though, I don't think there's a chance in hell it changes. I think Merab absolutely ends up running through him. A couple other fights on the card as I run through them. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. Credit to Juliana Pena for trying. She's trying very hard to be like this heel-ish figure in women's MMA, and I think at this point, women's MMA kind of needs that right now. They don't really have that. They don't really have their Ronda, their, like, must-watch person. Harrison might be the closest thing, but even then, she's only had, I think, 3 UFC fights. How many people were watching her in PFL? And the weight cut is real. Even then, I still think Kayla Harrison is going to take this one. I think Juliana Pena is really good. All right? I think Juliana Pena's fight against Amanda was the definition of a fluke. Like, caught a man on a bad day, wore some punches, Amanda gassed out, Juliana took advantage of it, but I think it was a fluke. And then Amanda proved it. Like, Amanda and Valentina are the only 2 women I have ever seen. Actually, now I think of it, they might be the only 2 fighters I've ever seen where they will go 5 rounds just to say they did it. Like, they are cat and mouse when it comes to opponents. Just that cat playing with the dead mouse in the hallway that doesn't know it's dead, trying to get away. And it's like, no, come back over here. And we've seen Valentina and Amanda do that time and time again. I can't believe we're never going to get that super fight. We got it before, but, like, I need it again. But we all know what's going to happen. Like, Juliana's going to be focused more on Amanda probably during this and say that Kayla Harrison doesn't deserve it and she hasn't really fought anybody, and Kayla Harrison's going to take the high road. But for the most part, I think Kayla Harrison ends up kind of running through her a little bit. But, look, Juliana Pena's ground game is real. So we'll see. And as I said, the weight cut. Number 3 fight on the card, Mario Bautista versus Chito Vera in a 3-rounder for the 135. Chito's got to get in the win column. Been a rough little stretch for Chito since the O'Malley fight. And I think Chito's biggest problem is the dude just takes forever to get going. And in a 3-round fight, you can't afford to take forever to get going. You just cannot do it. And for whatever reason, it seems like he takes that first round off, which we've seen some people do before in the past. But even he takes half of the second round off, and he's just kind of stuck in second gear. But he needs a win, as I'm trying to pull up his Tabology, and it's not working, which is cool, because I don't pay like a good $100 a month for internet. Mario Bautista had an absolute snooze fest his last fight. Absolute snoozer, and he tried to call out Henry Cejudo afterwards, and Henry's like, dude, what? No. You didn't do anything in that fight. You bored the hell out of everybody. So even this fight, while I think that this card is name recognition, I don't think this fight is really interesting. And I like Chito Vera a lot, but you've got a guy who should be motivated in Mario Bautista to at least put on a show and not hold people, which is essentially what he did in his last outing. And taking on a guy that takes forever to get in a second gear, but has the ability to put it on you once he does find his range. It's going to be an interesting fight, and it has the chance to be a good one. I just don't know necessarily if it's going to live up to that. Like, I hope, obviously. I mean, we're talking about the main card here. But all right, fourth fight: Johnny Walker versus Azamat Murzakanov. Okay, look, I think it's pretty clear. I'm not real familiar with Azamat. He's 14-0. Light heavyweight. Now, this might be a situation where when I actually look at his numbers and look at his Tabology, I'm going to go, oh, yeah, that guy. Johnny Walker's a weird figure in the sense of, like, he had that losing streak, and then he claimed he was getting poisoned by CBD, and since then he does look a lot better, but he is so hit or miss. Like, he either gets knocked out or he puts it on his opponent, and then he does the worm. All right, fifth fight on the card: Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. Flyweights always produce, and I don't think this one will be any different. This one's going to be a really, really fun one. Joshua Van's one to watch in the division. Picked up a win last time out. Bruno Silva's fun to watch. Like, this is going to be, I think, your one that if you're a casual fan, this actually might end up being the best fight on the main card. In terms of entertainment purposes, sign me up for that one. And then the last fight that was announced was Sergey Spivak versus Shamil Gaziev. I love the polar bear. Love the dude. Can't tell you why. I think it's just because he's so undersized for a heavyweight. But the dude's got fast hands, and he's one of. I think it's the fact he's one of the few heavyweights that can actually, like, grapple. I don't know. I enjoy it. There you go. There's your UFC 13 minutes. I used to get a UFC minute on the show I watched. Just got 13 minutes, kind of breaking down the UFC 316. So yeah, we'll talk more MMA, which is cool, other than, like, the Philadelphia topics. And this one pains me to talk about. But Temple basketball might be dead. That sucks to say. Now, if you are a casual fan of the Big Five, of Philly basketball, you probably haven't been paying attention to what's going on at Temple with their athletics department. You've probably been focused more on Villanova. They've had more success. I don't blame you on that front. But let me just break down what has taken place since this is since March 20th. Okay, and I'm getting all this from owlscoop.com. They're your go-to spot for all Temple sports-related issues. So they announced that Quante Berry would be entering the transfer portal. Quante Berry was a guard. I think he's only got one more year of eligibility. His agent announced he would be entering the portal. Okay, fine, Quante Berry. Then March 24th, Dylan Batee, who was a freshman this past year, barely got any time, was a legacy recruit actually. His agent announced he was entering the portal. I don't know how much money he's going to get, but clearly the agent thinks that he's going to get more, even though he barely played. Fine. Okay. Dylan Batee, fine. This one hurt. Day later, Zion Stanford announced that he was leaving transfer portal. Zion Stanford was a local kid. He went to West Catholic. He was going to be entering his true junior year. He was supposed to be the guy next season. He was supposed to be the guy to take them kind of to the next level or take over the leadership role. He came in, played both years under Adam Fisher, the head coach, and he had talked about after the season ended his leadership and taking that next step. But it was kind of but is that going to be here? Apparently not. He's entering the portal. Then you had March 27th, Elijah Gray, a big man. He announced that he was entering the portal. Fine. Okay. He was whatever. And then yesterday, so April 1st, not a joke either, Jameel Brown, who was a transfer in from Penn State, announced that he will be now going to his third school because he's going to be entering the portal. Now, you might be thinking, man, that's a lot of people. You're right, it is. No, it gets worse. They had a high school kid named Cam Miles who decommitted. Why? Now, the suburban guy that probably hasn't been to the city and just watches the news and talks about crime all the time will say, people don't want to go to Temple. Let me just make this perfectly clear. If Baghdad University offered these kids the bag, if they offered these kids hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, then those kids would be shipping up and going to Baghdad U. This is no longer 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where anything matters other than money. It's like 95% of the reason why a kid is going to go to a school is the money. And then the other 5% might be, the ambiance, the system. Other than that, it's cash rules everything around me. I don't blame players for doing that. The problem is Temple doesn't have it. And I cannot figure out as a Temple basketball devotee how their athletic director, Arthur Johnson, is still employed at that university. Their university is run by Tweedledee and Tweedledum. They have a new president in John Fry who came over from Drexel, and people that followed the Drexel program said, watch out for him. He got in some hot water because he said that he didn't believe that football was a profitable sport, and then he came to Temple where they had a football issue. So then immediately it was like, well, are you going to get rid of the football program? And then he let Arthur Johnson fire his head coach, a guy that he hired. Now, granted, they hired a head coach in Casey Keeler, who's a really, really good head coach. He coached at Delaware. He turned around Sam Houston State. He's a local guy, and he seems to be a really good head football coach. I don't know if they have the resources to get players in for him to coach. Casey Keeler is not a miracle worker. He's not Ann Sullivan, folks. And if you don't have the money to get the kids into the program, your program is going to suffer no matter what. All Arthur Johnson does is gotten up there and talked about how they want to win championships. That's like saying I want to wake up next to Sidney Sweeney. It's not going to happen, but sure, I can say it a lot. It's dumb. Because he hasn't put his money where his mouth is, both literally and figuratively. Now, Temple's NIL, and this is the problem with Arthur Johnson, he comes out and he says, I think back in September, that he was late to embrace NIL. How you're an athletic director and you were late to embrace NIL is mind-blowing to me. I guess he thought it was going to be a fad. Well, it wasn't, Artie. And Temple acted like it was just, it'll come and go. We don't really need to pay any attention, it'll come and go. Well, it hasn't, and it's set your program back a decade, if not more, by being slow to the NIL process. So there was one Temple fan out there, a guy named Andy Carl, said, you know what, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm not going to sit back and act like this is the year 2000 and we can just recruit based on, hey, look, we're in a major city. Isn't that cool, kid? Do you want to come here? That's not the way it works anymore. So Andy Carl set up what he called the Tough Fund, and it was the NIL collective for Temple University. Andy Carl was one guy who did this pro bono, who did it because he just didn't want to see Temple sports go by the wayside completely. He wanted to see them be a bit competitive. And this dude did yeoman's work. For being one guy, he really, really did a great job. Because he didn't have the resources like other schools. And when I say other schools, I'm not talking about the Alabamas. I'm not talking about the Dukes, the North Carolinas. I'm talking about like the Tulanes. I'm talking about the Tulsas. Like the University of Idaho probably has a better NIL collective. Like the schools that Temple should be competing with in their conference, they probably had the worst NIL collective. And it was not based on anything other than they had no university support. And it was primarily coming from Arthur Johnson. Well, recently Arthur announced that they're going to be bringing the NIL collective in-house. And if you want to donate, you can. Now, apparently the comments from that announcement were not kind. And now you're seeing kids flee the basketball program to the point where they have 4 scholarship players. 4 scholarship players for next season. I have never been less interested in college basketball. I did not fill out a bracket this year. I realized it. I didn't care. And I think NIL is the number one reason for it. And this might be like a reverse Tush Push where I'm just complaining and saying you got to get, and I'm not saying you got to get rid of it, but that might be how it's coming across. I love the players getting paid. The toothpaste is out of the tube. Genie's out of the bottle. And Temple was so slow to embrace this by their own admission that now you're seeing the ramifications of that by having guys who literally barely played their freshman year go, I can still get more money somewhere else. Even though there's little to no tape of me from last season, I can still transfer to anywhere, and I'm probably going to get more money. What's Marshall up to? They need a guard? Zion Stanford stung. Jameel Brown was another one. Like, he came over from Penn State, and they had 3 big transfers come in last year. And it was Jameel Brown, it was Lindgren III, who was a legacy kid. His dad was on the staff. And then you had Jamal Mashburn Jr. And Jamal Mashburn Jr. was the only one to actually live up to the billing and probably live up to the paycheck that he got to come to Temple University. Lynn Greer got NIL money, and he got kicked off the team. Jameel Brown had mental health issues going on, which I commiserate with, and he was expected to come back, and he's not. And it's probably because all these guys have agents. The agents are constantly looking around, finding out what they can get, and they probably found out we can get more than coming back to Temple. And do I blame the kids for that? No, I blame Arthur Johnson, who I can't figure out how this dude has a job, how he is employed, how this team and this school has let it get to this point where they continue to go on like, well, we have the 6th most wins in NCAA. Nobody cares about that. Nobody. You know who cares about that? Like, the alumni that remembers the glory days. A 17-year-old kid cares about one thing. Dead presidents. That is it. And if you don't have it, you're not going to succeed in today's day and age of college athletics. I think there's a big reason why you are seeing teams hire former pro athletes to be their head coach who have little to no coaching experience. It's because you hire a Mike Bibby who just got hired by Sacramento State, and now you're able to parade him around your donors. And now your donors are rubbing elbows with a former NBA All-Star, and they're yucking it up, and they get to take a picture, and they get to put it on their Boomer Facebook page and get 37 likes. And you know what they then do? They then pull out their checkbook, they cut a check, and they hand it over. And that helps the NIL. And then from there, it's all about getting the players and hoping to God that it works out. But gone are the days of, we're going to get a kid in here, we're going to have him for 4 years, he's going to develop. And I can't help but think, as a Temple fan, how this would have affected previous years. Like, you wouldn't have seen Khalif Wyatt because he would have transferred out. He would have been gone. Will Cummings would have been gone. Shiz Alston would have been gone. All these guys. These, like, guys that I don't want to say grew up watching because we were the same age, but, like, when Temple basketball was competitive and these guys were the reason why, they would have been gone. Because Temple acts like they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And it's embarrassing. Now, I tweeted this out, and I got some people that were like, well, kids don't want to come to North Philly. I'm telling you, it's not that. It's not. If you made that argument to me 10 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, it probably is that. Now it is about one thing, and it's something that Temple does not have, and they don't have a clue to get a hold of, and that is money. The fact that the basketball program has 4 scholarship players, 4. They're going to have to enter the portal and go, like, you know, basically in the bargain bin to take what little money they have and piece it together. And you know what Arthur Johnson's going to do? He's not going to look in the mirror, say, it's my fault. He's just going to end up firing coaches. At what point does he get fired? At what point do you actually hire somebody that has a fucking clue? Because it ain't Arthur Johnson. And as a Temple fan, I am perplexed. You're not going to win in football because it's a huge roster and you don't have the money. Basketball, you might have a shot at, but as we're seeing, it's like it just feels like rats fleeing your sinking ship. And I think Adam Fisher's a good coach, but there's only so much these coaches can do. I know for a fact that they've had kids in the door who have said, like, yeah, I'm going to commit. Let's talk business. Ricky Rowe from Blue Chip Style. I need $500K in a duffel bag. And they go, we don't have that. What we do have is a Chipotle, and we got a Qdoba. We got a Chick-fil-A in the sack. Insomnia cookies. Got a good tech center. Like, kids don't care. The day and age of recruiting in college basketball being anything but money is gone. But the fact that Temple has seen their team decimated by the transfer portal, where they're at 4 scholarship players. Like, if you're a scholarship player, why would you stay? Other than maybe you're getting the biggest bag, you're not going to win. It's just disappointing.